I usually start with time for sound design, but in this video, I'm actually not going to do any sound design. Since it's the last video of 2024, I want to look back and talk about my favorite videos of this year. And I also want to talk about the workflow of how I record videos once a week. So very quickly, I want to highlight 4 videos that I made this year that I think are good videos in some way. I will link those videos in the description, so if you haven't seen them, go check them out. So the first video I want to highlight is a video I made about the roar effect, the overdrive distortion effect in Ableton Live. The roar effect was released this year, and I think it's a great effect with so much use cases and so much different ways you can use it in your music production. You can modulate a lot of the parameters, and by doing that, there's so many sort of sonic variation that you can create. So you can use it on drums, you can use it on melodic samples or instruments and on vocal samples. And you can really transform a sound from something that might be quite dull or simple to something that's complex and interesting. If you're using Ableton Live and you haven't used the roar effect, then I highly recommend that you play around with it and see what kind of sounds you can create with this effect. This was the only video of the 4 videos that is specific to Ableton. The next one is not specific to Ableton, and this is a video I actually made 3 videos in the same format. It was all about time limitation. So the idea was, what if you only have 10 minutes, what kind of music can you make in those 10 minutes? And of course 10 minutes is like a super unrealistic time frame to make a track, but the idea was that if you use very little, if you have very little time, if you limit yourself to a very short amount of time, you don't have time to overthink or to think at all. So you just have to go with your gut feeling, with your instinct, what is the first thing that comes to mind, the first idea, and just develop that. So if you are in that mood where you don't know exactly what to make, or you feel like you don't have inspiration, setting yourself an unrealistic short time like 10 minutes is a great way to get started and just make something. And the good thing is, if it's complete trash, then you can just throw it out because you only spent 10 minutes with it. But in most cases, you will come up with something that you can use, and then maybe the rest you can throw out and then continue building on that little idea that you got in those 10 minutes. So if you want to see what I did, go check out that video. The third video I want to highlight is about the use of vocal samples. And the idea of this track was to basically create a track with a lot of vocal samples, but also vocal synth patches, and to create something that's organic without actually having a vocalist. And I cut up a lot of different a cappella records and snippets from talk shows and other bits that I found. It's not done in the way to create an actual lyric, but just to have the feeling of a human in that track. I think this track turned out to be pretty interesting. I usually don't use a lot of vocal samples, and in this track I really went to an extreme to use as many different vocal samples and vocal synth patches as I could. That video is also linked in the description, and you can also find the track on Bandcamp. I will also link to that. And the fourth video I want to highlight is about minimalism. It's about limitations again, and it's the video where I only use 8 sounds at one time to create a beat. Again, this is about limitations. I think it's interesting to set yourself limitations if you work in a DAW, because you can do anything if you work in software like Ableton Live or any other digital audio workstation. So sometimes it really helps to limit yourself. And in this case, I said 8 sounds, 8 voice polyphony. So there are actually more than 8 sounds in that beat, but not at the same, playing at the same time. This approach that I used in that video is inspired by old samplers like the EMU SP1200 or the old Akai samplers, where the polyphony is limited, but I think it's still a valid approach to get something started in Ableton. So the same is with the time limitation. In this case, it's a polyphony limitation. It can really help to get your creative juices flowing. So go check out that video. So these are the 4 videos I wanted to highlight. Let me know in the comments what was your favorite video of this year and what kind of videos you would like to see more on this channel. All right, moving on to the second part of this video, the workflow. So in last year's end of the year video, I talked about the workflow and that I have a setup that's ready to record, but let's dive into that a little bit more specific. So I have one main camera mounted on the desk, and then I have another camera that I use sometimes for a second angle if I have gear, but the main thing is that I have one camera and then I record my screen as well, so you can see Ableton. And how I do this is actually with a video switcher. So I use the Blackmagic ATEM Mini Pro. I will insert some footage now of how it looks on my desk. So this is their entry-level video switcher, and you can record 4 different video sources over HDMI to this device, and then you can easily switch between them. You can do fades, you can have some stills as well, and some other stuff. You can also record 2 channels of audio into it, and a video switcher like that is usually used for live streaming. So if you have multiple cameras, you can easily switch between them. But the great thing about this video switcher is that there's also a USB-C output for hard disk recording. So I have one of those little hard disks connected to it, and I record everything directly on this hard disk. I have both my computer monitor into the ATEM Mini Pro, as well as my main camera and sometimes my secondary camera. And this microphone goes into Ableton, and then from Ableton, from my sound card, there's a stereo signal going into the ATEM Mini Pro. So on the ATEM Mini Pro, I can hit record, and it records basically everything I do. So I switch live between the different sources. So from the main camera to Ableton, I can overlay myself on the top corner back to the main view. And also the sound is recorded. So both the audio from Ableton as well as this microphone that you hear me talk through. The good thing about using a video switcher like this is that it's always ready to record because it's always hooked up. I can have multiple cameras. Typically I have 2, sometimes 3 sources. The other good thing is that the recording of the video is not done on the computer that I make music on. So I don't have to worry about overloading the CPU on my computer because I record externally. There's no fiddling with SD cards that are full and all that kind of stuff because I have a 1 terabyte hard disk connected to this video switcher. Of course, it's not all good. There are some disadvantages. Since I have the entry-level ATEM Mini Pro, the video and audio is baked into one file, so everything is one file. And this one only records in HD, not in 4K, but that's okay because my plan was to upload HD to YouTube because that's good enough, I think. But the main advantage is that I have a setup that is ready to record. I have the preview on the Feel World monitor, the small 5-inch monitor, so I can see how the picture looks like. I can record and I don't have to worry about recording on my computer that I make music on. If you're also thinking about making videos for YouTube and you want a setup that's easy, that's ready to record, this is an idea that works basically. All right, so this was a quick video, a workflow tip, last video of the year. Next year I will continue making videos on YouTube. The focus will still be on sound design and electronic music production, and even more so on the ideas than any specific gear or software. One thing that I am thinking about looking into is to use another DAW next to Ableton. I'm thinking about Reason 13 as an option to explore. And let me know in the comments what is your suggestion for a DAW, a digital audio workstation that I potentially could look into. Thanks for watching this year, for commenting, liking. I really appreciate the support. Keep making music and see you next year.